On Bill Maher's show on Friday, Ben Affleck went at it with Bill Maher and Sam Harris on the issue of Islam.
Every criticism of the doctrine of Islam gets conflated with bigotry toward Muslims as people.
Right.
And that is it's intellectually ridiculous. Even it gets
So hold on, are
with
you
racism.
the person who understands the officially codified doctrine of Islam? You're the interpreter of that, so you can say, well, this is...
I'm actually well educated on this topic.
I'm asking you. So you're saying if I criticize you're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing. That if you're critical of something...
Well, it's not a real thing when we do it.
Right.
Well, no,
it really isn't.
I'm not denying that certain people are bigoted against Muslims as people. And that's a problem.
Big of you.
But
why are you so hostile about this concept?
It's gross. It's racist.
It's not. But it's so nuts.
It's like saying those stateless, shifty Jew.
You're not listening
Absolutely
to
not.
what we are saying.
You guys are saying if you want to be liberals, believe in liberal principles like freedom of speech, like we are endowed by our forefathers with an inalienable rights, like all men are created equal.
Ben, we have to be able to criticize bad ideas. And
of course we do. No liberal doesn't want to criticize bad ideas.
But Islam at this moment is the motherlode of bad ideas.
Jesus.
So we have
That's
ideas
just a fact.
like blasphemy.
It's not a fact.
It's
an ugly thing.
Apostasy.
It is one basic liberal
let me
principle
unpack
is
it.
tolerance.
Let me unpack it.
But not for intolerance.
No, of course not. But the picture you're painting is, to some extent, true, but is hugely incomplete. It is certainly true that plenty of fanatics and jihadis are Muslim, but the people who are standing up to them, Malala, incredible Muhammad Ali Dadak in Iran, in prison for 9 years for speaking up for Christians. A friend that I had in Pakistan who was shot this year, Rashid Rahman, for defending people accused of apostasy.
Or how about the more than a billion people who aren't fanatical, who don't punish women, who just want to go to the store,
wait a second. Wait a second.
and don't do any of the things that you're saying all Muslims
wait a second.
stereoting.
Wait a second.
Things, and you're painting the whole group religion with that.
No, let's get down to who has the right answer here. A billion people, you say. All these billion people don't hold any of these...
5 or something.
Don't hold these pernicious beliefs?
No.
I would...
Well, they don't.
That's just not true, Ben. That's just not true.
What is your solution? What is your ask?
No,
just condemn Islam?
The solution. No, the solution is very much what
we've killed more Muslims than they've killed us by an awful lot. We've invaded more Muslims.
I am not for more killing.
An awful lot. And yet somehow we're exempted from these things because they're not really a reflection of what we believe in. We did by accident. That's why we invaded Iraq and put 4 million people.
We're not convincing anybody.
It's not I'm specifically telling you that I disagree with what you think.
I know, and we're obviously not convincing anybody of you.
You don't understand my argument.
Your argument is like, black people, they show each other.
That is not my argument.
No, it's not. It's based on facts. I can show you a Pew poll of Egyptians. They are not outliers in the Muslim world that say like 90% of them believe death is the appropriate response to leaving the religion. If 90% of Brazilians thought that death was the appropriate response to leaving Catholicism, you would think it was a bigger deal.
I would think it's a big deal no matter what.
Okay, but that's the fact.
You don't.
But what I wouldn't do is say it's all Brazilians, or I wouldn't say, well, Ted Bundy did this. Goddamn, these gays are all trying to eat each other.
It's gotten to the point where we discuss this exact topic every other week. So this is now, in my opinion, the classic divide between liberalism and atheism. Okay, and I want both sides to listen very closely here because I'm both of you, okay? I'm in both of your camps. So, you ready for this? Liberals are too soft on Islam, and atheists are too hard on Muslims. There you have it. That sums it up. Now, stop, think about it, soak it in. Don't get all fucking uppity outrage on me like a lot of liberals will be like, how dare you say that? A lot of atheists will be like, how dare you say that? Both sides are not going to like me for bringing this up. But I think that's the reality, and I'll go ahead and try to explain exactly why I think that. Now, before I continue, let me just say, we addressed this problem in much more detail in a segment we did on Secular Talk a little while ago titled, Is Islam Worse Than Other Religions? Okay, in that segment, it's, I think, 15 minutes long. I break down all these different facts and numbers and all this different information and sort through it as much as possible and give you the best possible answer. It's a nuanced and complicated answer, but check out that video if you really want to see something in detail about this. Now, let me try to sum it up here anyway. They're both right. and they need to listen to each other instead of talking over each other's heads. I don't like it. I've gotten so many people that tweet at me, and they're like, yeah, Maher and Harris kicked Affleck's ass, huh? Yeah, that's exactly right. No. And then people say, yeah, I love Affleck now. Affleck kicked their ass. No. Again, they're both right, and they're just fucking talking over each other's heads. So here's what the liberals need to understand, okay? And then I'll tell you what the atheists need to understand in a second. But the liberals need to understand that the doctrine of Islam is just as moronic as every other religion. It's false, it's made up, and there's a lot of beheading of the infidel in that book, okay? So to criticize the fuck out of the religion of Islam is necessary and it's merited. Just like we do with Christianity, by the way. If you look in the SecularTalk archives and you type in Pat Robertson or John Hagee or just Christianity, it's almost 100% negative coverage, and that's a good thing. That doesn't mean I'm an anti-Christian bigot. It means I disagree with the philosophy and the religion of Christianity the same way I disagree with the philosophy and the religion of Islam. Okay? Also, according to Pew Research polls in South Asian Muslim countries, 76% of the people say execute those who leave Islam. In the Middle East and North Africa, 56% say execute those who leave Islam. Also, 84% in South Asia back Sharia law. 74% in the Middle East and North Africa back Sharia law. These are facts, and these are inexcusable. So if liberals don't like it and they want to talk about the Muslim victim complex, get the fuck over it. We'll get to the Muslim legitimate victimization of Muslims in a second, but you have to acknowledge these facts and not gloss over it and say, I condemn that, that's fucking stupid, that's moronic, that's backwards, and I don't agree with that. Okay? Now, also, internationally, liberals need to acknowledge, and listen very closely to how I word this, because you can't argue against this, okay? This is worded very specifically for a reason. Internationally, terrorism done specifically in the name of religion is more Muslim than any other kind. You can get outraged if you want. I don't care. Shove it up your ass. That's a fact. Again, I'll go after the atheists in a second, but you have to accept all these things because it's the reality. And finally, liberals do need to stand up for their principles. Maher is right about that, and sometimes they don't. So, for example, many liberals tried to protest, or did protest, the Muhammad cartoon that sparked outrage in the Muslim world. They were protesting with the Muslims. But wait a second, it's about freedom of speech, period. It's not about, oh, you offended my religion and you don't have a right to offend it. No, fuck that. It's freedom of speech, you're allowed to do it. I look at that the same way I look at Pat Robertson if he tries to censor somebody from saying something because it offends Christianity. We all say fuck off universally. But what, if Muslims do it, it's different? No, you're supposed to condemn that. Liberals also tried to censor, it's true, Ayaan Hirsi Ali from giving a speech. Now, people fire back at me and they say, oh, but it was just didn't want her to get an award. True, and I'm fine with you not wanting her to get an award. That's a legitimate reason to be upset. But don't stop her from trying to speak. It's called freedom of speech for a fucking reason. Even if you don't agree with her, she's allowed to speak. A lot of liberals were fighting that. And then I've given this example before, the Katy Perry music video where there was some sort of necklace that offended Muslims and Muslim groups got angry and they wanted to censor the video. A lot of liberals stood with the Muslims on that one. No, you're not liberals at that point. You're fucking morons. You believe in censorship if it's for specific things. You wouldn't defend it if it was Christianity, but you do defend it when it's Islam. So liberals, I need you to stop giving away your principles to try to defend Islam. I'm sorry, but it's the reality. Now, let's go after the atheists here in a second, okay? Here's what the atheists need to understand. Liberals get touchy about protecting Muslims because they are a persecuted minority in America. Okay, and a lot of atheists, and I think Maher's included in this category, possibly Sam Harris too, they wouldn't agree with that. They would say, no, they're not a persecuted minority, but they are. So, for example, the NSA admits that they spy even on moderate Muslims as if they're terrorists. This was a great report from The Intercept and Glenn Greenwald where they gave incredible detail about how they spy on people in CARE, the Muslim Civil Liberties Group, just as much as they spy on people who they think are fucking terrorists, when it's proven that these people aren't terrorists. So, yes, they are a persecuted minority. How about hate crimes against Muslims? Hate crimes against Muslims in America shot through the fucking roof after 9/11 to the point where it wasn't even just Muslims that had hate crimes increase against them. It was against Sikhs, and it was against Buddhists, it was against Hindus, anybody who had slightly darker skin tone than somebody in Arkansas. They said, okay, hate crime has increased against them. They attacked them because they thought, oh, you're one of the terrorists. Again, clear persecution of Muslims. Then also, there are regular calls from media figures and politicians to, for example, ban Muslim immigrants from America. Brian Fisher did it the other day. Bob Beckel on Fox News said ban Muslims from coming to our schools after the Boston bombing. Oklahoma tries to ban Sharia law all the time. Meanwhile, it's already banned, so it's clearly just over-the-top persecution of specific groups. Again, clear example of Muslims being a persecuted minority in America. And most importantly, okay, in America, Muslims are not the problem. 56% of the terrorist attacks in America from the 1990s until today have been anti-government. So they've been far right-wing terrorists. So the problem in America is the sovereign citizen movement and neo-Nazis and skinheads and the KKK and the patriot militias, which, by the way, exploded under President Obama because he's a black president and he's a Democrat and they hate him. It went from some tiny number to over 1,000 patriot militia groups that do violence. And, of course, abortion clinic bombers, you name it, right? So this is the problem in the United States of America. And there's two more things that atheists need to understand about American Muslims. They're just as Americanized as everybody here, if not more so. So Gallup did a poll on the idea of rejecting violence against civilians, and they went group by group. And you know what group was number one in rejecting violence against civilians in America? Muslims. 78% of Muslims always reject violence against civilians. Just 38% of Protestants did, and 39% of Catholics. I repeat myself, Muslims in America are not the problem. The problem is the extreme right-wingers. But the most important point, okay, and this is why I think the liberals get very angry at Maher when he does this, and Harris and others in the New Atheist movement, is that you can't not allow state violence into the conversation. Because once you allow state violence into the conversation, and Ben Affleck made this point at the end, then it becomes devastating. The point becomes devastating. Once you allow state violence, which is essentially a state religion, into the conversation, American imperialism killed way more people than Muslim terrorism is doing right now. Okay, 200,000 innocent civilians minimum, at least in Iraq. Never mind Afghanistan, never mind Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia with the continued drone strikes. Never mind all the people that died in our various coups in South America. We overthrew democratic governments all over the place. Chile, you name it, and we put them out and put in vicious dictators who are helping our corporate interests. Post-World War II, the United States has just toppled all these fucking governments and do whatever the fuck we want because we're the remaining superpower. So when you allow state violence into the conversation, that's why a lot of liberals get angry when there's demonization of Muslims that go on, because it's like, the problem is more American imperialism. What, we kill people with laser-guided missiles so it's better as opposed to somebody beheading somebody? Oh, it's more humane when we use laser-guided missiles and drones and we kill civilians. And again, like Affleck said, oh, well, we didn't mean it, so it's okay. So we can wash our hands of it. No, you can't. No, you can't. So, look, this is the reality, and I wanted to break it down for both sides to understand. You agree more with each other than you think you do. You're just talking over each other's heads. So here's what atheists should do. Atheists should be more clear in these realities that I laid out, and they should say, look, it's a fact that Muslims in America are victimized. Muslims in America are not the problem. They're very moderate, so on and so forth, and give all these facts that I gave and show that you understand that there's real persecution and it's a huge problem. Harris mentioned it briefly, but he doesn't grasp all this stuff as well, and he doesn't understand state violence versus religious violence and stuff like that. So point this out when you're the atheist, and for the liberals, please, you need to point out that, look, the polls on the attitude in the Muslim world are unacceptable, with the executing of people if they leave their religion, with the belief in Sharia law, and stuff like that. So both sides need to listen to each other and talk it out, because you're both right and you're both wrong. And when you get into these arguments where you scream over each other's heads, it makes for good TV, but in the end, you're not really solving anything.